The Queen charge into Miners has surged in popularity. It is fast becoming one of the best Town Hall 13 attack strategies, and it took over the most recent Clan War leagues. I've seen it used again and again for 3 stars, and this video will try and help you to get them 3 stars. We have a couple of very nice replays from the Clan War leagues against maxed out bases, so we're going to break them down and tell you how to use the Miners. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alrighty guys, so this is the first base that we're going to break down. I do have a couple of different replays. We got so many 3-star attacks in this Clan War leagues with the Miners that I've certainly got too many to choose from, to be honest with you. It will give you a good variation in different tips for the Miners, but if I do miss anything that you feel would be beneficial for other viewers, please do share it in the comments section below. So diving into this one, the Queen charge is most certainly the best entry for the Miners. I don't think there's anything else that quite compares to it. Fail time is going to basically take out this entire right hand side with the Queen charge, so a huge Queen charge, wall breaking in. Then the siege barracks, that brand new siege, is used to create a funnel for the Miners to come straight in towards this multi-inferno. A nice thin path for the Miners, and they will also be able to come straight down towards that town hall. Now the town hall is something that you have to either take with the Queen charge or hit early on with the Miners. There's often skeleton traps around that area. It can take a long time for your Miners to get through, and the Giga Inferno can do a huge ton of damage. Whilst the Miners won't get hit by the Giga Bomb, you've got to get through that town hall early on, because the Miners, as they start going down, will struggle to get through it. So let's start the replay and we can continue to break this down as we move through. A couple of balloons and minions, wizards, are used initially to create the funnel, but it is enough for the Queen to then self-funnel. The Queen is a ranged troop and can ultimately reach buildings and make a wider gap for her. So essentially, after she's taken down the elixir storage here, it's going to mean that this entire portion is then down, and she's going to move up over exactly where we want her. So just know that your Queen can also widen the funnel by herself. Now the King is used up to this top side in order to create the funnel. Whilst the Queen will more than likely aggro the King, there's always the chance that the Barbarian King moves across to whatever troops you're putting into that top side, so the King just works well, especially now that we have the siege barracks, which can be so successfully used on the opposite side. Now I do want to point out that the rage spell in combination with the wall breakers is incredibly valuable. Fail time gets multiple layers broken in this one with the wall breakers. After the second layer is broken, everything after that is a bonus, but combines the wall breakers with the rage spell in order to break through multiple layers. If you can use wall breakers for your Queen charge, the best opportunity to do that is out of range of multis, so you're not having to freeze and things like that. It just does get a little bit more complex. Whilst you can do it, you've got to commit more to it, so you've got to question whether it's the most efficient way of getting into the base. But if you can wall break out of the way of the multis, then it's going to be a bonus. The Queen is going to take down the enemy Queen, the enemy Royal Champion, and the enemy Clan Castle. Whilst all 3 defenses can be taken out by the Miners, it is just one extra thing, and it can pull your Miners into a separate direction. You want a good spread of the Miners where they can slowly move through. So whilst the Queen continues to do her job down to this section, we still have a rage spell to use with her. We know that she's safe and going to walk down this bottom area now, take out the eagle. We can shift focus to the Miners. Around about the 1 minute and 30-second mark is when you have to be starting with the Miners, otherwise there is potential for you to time fail. So the Queen has taken out that right hand side, as we mentioned. The siege barracks is going to take out the left hand side for the Miners to come straight through. Now the siege barracks is a great a great siege to create that funnel. Because of the P.E.K.K.A that you get within it, it is continuing to tank for the miners as they move through. So try not to use it too early in that you're not then using the P.E.K.K.A to tank, because that will go down a lot quicker. Using it in combination with the miners, but getting the right timing to keep their pathing is certainly important. Once you get to that town hall, that is when the Grand Warden's ability should be used, not necessarily to get through the Giga Bomb, but ultimately because it does so much damage in terms of the town hall. That's probably one of them areas where you will use the Grand Warden's ability. We used it a little bit earlier on in this one, but it does depend on the base itself. Now, a lot of the miners have come out to the outside of the base here, so as they came down, they slowly moved to the outside. That's not what you want. You want to try and force them into the middle of the base, so continuing to bring in troops on that side, whether it be Baby Dragon, whether it be your king, but we used him initially in this raid. Ultimately, you want to try and keep that momentum through the base. But if you can get everything right initially, you might still be okay with the miners coming down to the end of it. Failtime did such a brilliant job in setting up this one, getting huge value with that queen charge, and he's got more than enough miners to get the job done at the end here. And we are going to continue breaking down other variations of this strategy. If you are new to my channel, be sure to subscribe in order to see daily educational Clash of Clans video. Whilst you're down there, be sure to check out my Discord server, because that's everything you'd need to know about joining us here at Crunch Time. But let's move across to the next attack for this video. For the second base, it is a little bit tricky because we have this weird area with the 3 multi-infernos in a line. So that is clearly where we want the miners to come in from. The Eagle Artillery is also a building that you want to target early on with the miners, and the Town Hall, as we mentioned, is either with the miners or with the Queen Charge. Now, whilst we could charge into this bottom area, it's often safer just to take out the Town Hall in order to then get the pathing of your miners a little bit easier. If we were to break into this bottom area with the Queen, we'd then be looking to either enter the base from the left or the right ideally, and it doesn't make as much sense due to the long compartments kind of in these directions from northeast to southwest. So the Queen Charge is going to take out the Town Hall on this right hand side and ultimately get the Town Hall, the Clan Castle, and all of this left-hand side of the base, allowing the miners to come through the multi-infernos. Let's go ahead and start this one. I want to take notice of the scatter shot in this one. I don't feel I mentioned it too much in that previous attack, but they can do a lot of damage onto the miners. However, with them being a ranged defense, similar to the mortar, you can actually tank them with your Archer Queen, and then you don't even have to deal with it, because the miners will take it out whilst it's tanked on your Queen. You don't need the Queen to take it out, just to distract it, if that makes sense. So the Archer Queen is going to basically draw her fire into the Town Hall. Whenever you see, guys, these one layer of wall next to the Town Hall, and it will most likely be a couple of sections out, what it is trying to do is force your troops onto the outside, so therefore you can't reach the Town Hall. It can be very tricky, but what you've got to do is take out the buildings here to then drive your Queen or whatever you're using, whatever kill squad, into the inside of that wall. You do not want them going to the outside. So just take note of that. A couple of miners are used to do that. It doesn't have to be anything major. And the wall breakers, again, with no multi-inferno, can be used to drive into this area, mainly just to help the pathing a little bit for the miners as they come in, but ultimately take out the Clan Castle troops as well. The Barbarian King around the outside of the base here has created a beautiful funnel, and there is a very key thing here that is going to take place in a second. Notice this one builder hut. Now, whenever we put the miners in, whilst the Town Hall isn't down yet, whenever we put the miners in, what they would do is basically all be drawn to the builder's hut, and then you've just got one pack of miners stuck together. You don't want that. You want kind of an even spread across this side. So you want miners coming right the way through, and then they're moving through the base together, not necessarily in one huge pack. That is inefficient. So you will see a couple of miners initially to take down the builder hut, and then that allows the rest of the miners to come through in that little bit more of a spread spread fashion. As soon as the town hall goes down, there we are, and look at that nice spread now of the miners moving through onto the different defenses. Ultimately, what you want to try and get here, and also there's so much happening, guys, so that's why I'm trying to pause. I love the use of the Royal Champion and the Stone Slammer to try and thin out this right hand side to allow the miners to concentrate through the middle. Similar to what I was talking about in that first attack, trying to maintain that funnel and keep the miners just swooping through the middle. That's kind of what's happening here with that Royal Champion and Slammer. What I was about to say in terms of the miners, what you want is enough miners whereby when they pop up, they virtually one-shot the defense, but then they move to the next. If you have 35 miners on one defense, it's going to go down in a second, yes, but it's not very efficient. You want just enough where it goes straight down and then they move on. And you want that across the defenses in that nice, smooth fashion. That's when you come in initially. As you move through the base, it's going to be trickier to keep them on track like that. However, notice the first scatter shot was tanked onto the Queen. The second one does tank onto the Grand Warden, which is very good, in fact, because they do a good amount of damage onto the miners. And when you get to the back end of the base, if you can save, let's say, a heal spell for the final splash damage, multi, whatever it is, that is great. But ultimately, the miners can get through the final area as well. If you can pre-plan your heal spells, you may or may not have to adjust. If you do, what I would say is you don't want to leave miners in the red. Get the heal spell in earlier rather than later, because the miners can be quite strong. If you lose too many early on, however, then you're not going to have that force. Use the heal early, it will help the miners, and you might still get it done moving into the back end of the base. But let's go ahead and show you one more attack. For the final replay by Beck Time, I do think it showcases a nice deployment of the miners and very nicely shows you how they stick together through the center of the base. The Queen Charge is used directly into the Town Hall, takes out the Clan Castle troops and the scatter shot in that area, so very good value. But with the miner deployment, it's a lot wider of an angle that we start with. However, they do then merge together here, look, into this thinner channel. So it's not necessarily having a thin area to deploy them, it's having a thinner area for them to move into the base and trying to keep them within the base, moving through to the major defenses. You can start with a wider funnel if they're coming in, you just don't want to start with a thinner funnel and have them come out. So let's get into the replay here. A couple of funneling troops will be used initially in order to help the Queen come straight into the base, but some of the buildings are actually left standing. For example, this archer tower is just going to be left for when the miners are deployed. There's no need to try and funnel it because the Queen's not going to go there anyway. You've got to look at the buildings which draw your Queen in. If the gold storage and air defense was not there, sometimes you see entries, for example, where this multi-inferno is. Look, there's a huge gap here. That can be trickier to funnel your Queen in because she's got further to go before she gets to a building. So it can be trickier to funnel your Queen because there's nothing to attract her. So do think about that, guys. What is there to draw your Queen into the base? Initially we had the hero and now she's in. We don't have to funnel anything else, she's into that base. So the multi goes down, we then have the Clan Castle troops. She is tanking the scatter shot. Generally speaking, the Queen is okay with the scatter shot and one other point defense. Any more than that and she can start to take major damage. So the rage spells are used to keep her through because it does do, look at the scatter shot, when it does that damage, look, boom, it does quite significant damage, so you've just got to take note of it. She'll get over to that town hall, and that's what we're waiting for before sending in the miners. Now, that siege barracks, again, a great addition, which is going to be used down this left-hand side of the base in order to allow them miners in. So there's that wider deployment of the miners. Look at them coming right across this area, but ultimately, they're funneling straight in towards the middle, straight in towards the eagle, and notice how they will get that nice movement through the base itself. They're not necessarily drawn to the outside because we've got that Royal Champion, we've got the siege barracks, and then we're going to have Hog Riders come out. But they are going to move into the base in that thinner area, whoops, sorry guys, into that thinner area and straight in towards the eagle. That's what you've got to take note of, guys. You do not want them coming to the outside here. You want to try and focus them through the middle, and that was brilliant deployment in this one. So whilst it might not have looked as clear in terms of that funneling and pathing, it actually worked out even better to get the miners in and get them to them splash damages sooner rather than later. And this is where the siege barracks is for the miners a brilliant addition, because look at the Pecker Wizards on the outside. They are doing the role of what often we would have used the king to do in terms of keeping the miners on the inside of the base, but that's not the only troops. You ultimately haven't committed there, because the hog riders then came into the base, and whenever the hogs get in there, they work really well. They're slightly quicker than the miners. They tend to gradually get ahead and just slowly take down the defenses. It works really nice in combination in terms of them two different strategies. In fact, I did do a video previously with the miners and the hog riders, that hybrid combination. I'll link it right here, in fact, because we're at the end of the video. Go and check that one out, guys. It was interesting. I did some attacks in there. It was really fun. You will enjoy it. But we will catch you again tomorrow for more Clash of Clans. So until then, take care.